Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. So today we will talk about GitHub workflow and GitHub commands, in which we will see like how can we create the local repository, then we will see how can we create the remote repository. All these things we will we will be doing using the GitHub CLI only, right? We will not use the GitHub desktop application. So using that we will create the local repository, right? And then we will create the remote repository. How can we init the local repository? That command also we will see, and then we will make some changes to the local repository. We will push them to the remote, and we will see all the complete workflow with the GitHub CLI. So please watch the video till end so that you can get to know about all these things, CLI commands, and it can be helpful for your daily work as well. So before going to the GitHub CLI, let's understand the workflow of Git, how the things happens in like behind the scene, right? So let's understand that. In last video, we have seen the version control systems. There I have explained the local version control system, then centralized and distributed. So Git and GitHub comes under the distributed version control system. So where we see like we have one repository, right? Central repository that would be on server, and then we have local repositories to each and every systems wherever Git is installed. So these are the Git repositories, and this is the GitHub repository where we host the Git repository. Right. In last video, I have explained in detail about Git and GitHub and this VCS version control systems. Right. So I hope you are getting like this is the central repository, and then we have the local repositories to each and every systems where Git is installed. Right. And this is our working copy for each and every system. So let's try to understand this complete workflow. So we will start from the remote repository where we have like there is a server, and on server we have some repository, right? Some directory there, and so there are two ways, multiple ways for doing this. One is we can have a remote repository here on server, and then we can clone and create a new repository locally, local repository using the server repository. Other way is we can create our own local repository, and we can initialize that repository with Git, and we can set this remote repository as a remote of this one local repository, right? So we will see in coming session where we will see by like using the command line some commands we will do this thing, right? So don't worry as of now. So just try to understand here is we have a remote repository. We have the first step is we have a remote repository. We are creating a local repository using that repository, and that is the cloning process. So first is cloning. We are creating the local repository using the remote repository. Now the second step is we will make some changes, right? So we make changes to the local repository, right? Where we have some files. We can, it could be like we can add some file, we can remove some file, or we can modify some files. So those changes we will make. Third step is we will commit. And once changes are once changes are done, then those changes we will add to staging area, right? Staging area, and then staging area we will commit those changes. Once the changes are commit, then it goes to the local repository, right? Committing does not mean like we are the changes are available on server. So you have to understand here, committing means we are making those changes permanent. We are saving those changes in the local repository only, and these changes are saved in some patch files, right? And those patch files are available on the local repository only, right? In patch files we have some differences. What are the differences? So those kind of things are saved in the patch files, and those files are in local repository only, here only, right? Once changes are committed, then we will push those changes to the server. So here there are two things, pull and push. You have to understand, right? So here arrow is showing first we have to pull and then push. That is because once, like for example, this is the server repository, centralized one. Someone else could have already pushed some changes, and those changes are not here with the or local repository, right? So in that case we may get the merge issues, right? So that will also we will see, right? How can we resolve? So before, to avoid those situations, what we will do, and in that case our push will fail, right? If the repository, the file which we are making the changes, that file already modified by some other developer, and that the version is different than our version, right, local one, then we cannot push, then we will get some error, right? And to resolve that error, what we do, we first pull the changes, right? Here see, step 5 is first pull, pull the changes from the server to local. And here, if the same file is modified and the merge is not automatically got resolved, then we have to manually that resolve and commit it again, right? And so that is the process of resolving merge one, right? So once we push the change, pull the changes, then our file is the version of our file and the version of that file is same. So now what we will do, now we will push the changes, once pull and then push. So that we have to do here. Pull means we are fetching the fetching and merging the changes of the remote repository file to the local repository, and pushing means we are pushing the changes to the server, right? Once push is done, then we can see our changes here on the remote server. I hope you are getting. There are 5 6 steps only. One, we have to clone the repository. Clone means copying the repository from server to local. Then we will make their changes. Then we will commit the changes. Committing means working copy to the local repository, and then we will push the changes from local repository to the remote repository. So this is a cyclic, right? You can see the cyclic workflow. So let's understand the fetch, pull, and push, right? So here we have a server repository, right? And here we have the local repository, right? And here and this is our working space, right? Workspace you can say, because local repository is different and working copy is different. You have to understand here, right? So this is the Git and this is the GitHub where we have a centralized repository. This is all, each and every developer will have their own copy of repository, and this is our working area, right? So now in working area we have some we have some files, right? And we can modify those files. We can add, delete, whatever operation we want to do, that we can do, right? So once the changes are done, then I have told you, right, we have to add those changes. We have to add those changes to the staging area, right? And for that we have some command git add, right, that we will use. I'll show you each and every commands practically, so just bear with me. So then, and then once the changes are in the staging area, then we commit them to the local repository. Committing means saving them, those changes, or making those changes permanent, right, to the local repository. Once the changes are here, then we can push those changes to the server, right? So this is the one thing, right? Now the fetch and pull is two commands where fetch do the only it copies the changes from server to the local repository. It does not merge those changes with the working copy, right? Means we can say like fetch does the copy the it compares the local and remote, and it sees some differences, so those differences is it copies to the local repository. And pull means fetch and merge. There is a merge command also, get merge, that we will see to merge the two files, right? So here get pull means fetch, first it will fetch and then it will merge those changes to the working space, right here. So that's why I have shown you a direct arrow. So git pull means it is copying the changes from the remote to the workspace directly. So let's understand it practically. So what I will do now, I will create one local repository here, right? So how can we do that? We will create just a simple directory, right? So mkdir, and then we will type the directory name. So we can say is test repo and then local. Test like repository local, right? So I'll do this one. So it will create a directory here. See, you can see test repo local. Then what I will do, I will initialize this with the git. So now we have to go to this test repo local directory. So for that we can cd, then here test, right? So now we are in this test repo local directory which we have created. Now we will initialize this with the git. So for that we have a command git init. So once we run this git init command, then see here initialized empty git repository, right? In this one. So here you can see, once you open this one, then you can see here .git directory. This was not there earlier, so now this is got created and this repository is initialized, but it is local repository. Now what we have to do, we will create one global server repository or remote repository, you can say. That also we can do using the command line. We will do each and every step using the command line. We will not use GitHub desktop application here to create either remote or local, whatever, right? We will do everything using the command line here. So what for creating the remote repository, let me show you first. See here, I have only 4 public repositories, right, on GitHub for my account. So I'll create one more repository here using the command line. So let me create that one. So what? what is the command for that? So for that we will use GitHub gh for GitHub, right? We will create on GitHub. So gh, then we have repo for repository, and then we have a create sub command, right? GitHub repo create, and here we will give the repository name, right? So repository name would be like, for example, test, then repo underscore remote, right? So this would be our remote repository name, and the like visibility of this one should be public. So I'll make it public, pub, right? So I'll make it public. So once I'll run this command, then it will create the remote repository for us. So let's see. See, created repository Ramjilal for you test repo underscore remote on GitHub, right? So this is done. Now here, if I refresh this, then you will see that repository here. See, this repository got created here, right? And inside this repository, if you go inside this repository, then you will see nothing is there, right? Here nothing. It is saying uh, do this if you are creating a new repository, and push on existing repository from the command line, right? So I hope you are getting till now. Like, we have created repository, but and yeah, one more thing here, we have created separately remote repository, we have created local repository. Now those repositories are not linked yet. So what we have to do, we have to link them, right? Because local repository does not know who is where to push those changes on server, in which repository, right? So for that we have to make some link there, right? This link should be there. Okay, so that this repository know where to push the changes and from where to pull the changes, right? So for that we have a command git remote add origin, right? So we will add the origin for this one. So let me copy and paste this one. So here add origin, and here origin, the path we will give here is remote repository which we have created. So that link we will give here. So I have copied this one. Let me paste it. So yeah, so git remote add. So now we have a local repository is test repo underscore local. So this, for this we have a remote repository, and that is this one, test repo underscore remote, right? Let me enter this. So yeah, so now this is done. So now we can see, if I do git then remote hyphen v, so it will show me the path where to push and where, from where we have to fetch, right? So for this, now it is set for test repo underscore local. We have a remote repository, right? Which is test repo underscore remote. Here this is the path from where we can fetch the changes and where we can push the changes, right? So now this is the step for like linking the remote repository and the local repository. I hope you are getting it. So now we have established the connection between the remote repository and local repository. So what we will do now, we will create some file here in local repository, right? So here in local repository we do not have anything now. So what we can do, we can create some file for. So for creating some file, I'll use the echo command, echo, and then this would be my for example, I'll give some text there in that file, so that uh, it could be test repo underscore local file, right? And here I can give the file name. So for that, uh, it could be readme file, for example, right? Readme.md file. I have created this one, right? So if I press enter, then see here one file got created. Now if I check the status of this repository, right? So this file is untracked now, right? So let me check that. So git status. So it will show, see, untracked file. Readme.md is untracked file, right? Because this file is not there on the server, as well as it was not there on the local. Now we created locally, but this is still not there on the server. So what we can do, we can add these changes to the staging area, right? See here, this one is the staging area. So here, for that we have a command git add. So what I will do, I will add this git, then add. If I press, if I have a dot, means all the files. Uh, in this, right? So as of now we have only one, but still the good practice is we can give the we should give the name always, which file we need to include, right? So for that I what I will do, readme .md. So I'll add this file to staging area, right? And here, see, this file got added to the staging area. So if I'll check again status, then here you will see change to be committed. So now this file is added. This is not showing in red, as well as this is not showing in the untracked files. This file is tracked, and this file is now in the staging area, right here only. Once we commit those changes, then it will go to the local repository. So let me show you that also. So if I commit this git commit, and then here each and every commit we for each and every commit we must have to give the message, right? In message we can have the information like why we are committing these changes, what this commit is having, what changes, and all those things information we can put it, right? So I'll m, and here a message is for example first commit, right? Press enter. So see here it is committing. So one file changed, right? One instruction is there, and this file got created, correct? So commit is done now here. So now if I see here status, then it will not be there, right? Nothing to commit. Working tree is clean. Here we don't have any commit, untracked changes or uncommitted changes. Everything is commit. Everything is saved to the local repository. Still, it is not there. This file is here. Let me show you. This file is here, right? But this is not there on the server. So here, if I refresh this, see, still it is not showing any file. Correct. So once we push, then only it will be there on the server. And here let me show you one more thing. So locally if we go to git, right, and here we have some folders inside this .git, right, and here we have objects, and here multiple objects we got created here, right, and in these objects we might have the changes, right? See, this is the file, some object file, and here this file also got created recently. So we commit then only. So basically when we commit, when we so all it creates some object files, and it saves those files here only. And if we see in the log, if I do git then log, then it will show me the last commit, right? So see here only one commit is there, which we made only. First commit was our name, right? We gave one message that is first commit, and this is author of the commit, and this date information. So whoever made the changes to this file will listed here in the log. You can check it, right? So now we have committed. Now what we will do, we will push these changes to the server, correct? So for that we have a push command, git push, right? Where to push? Origin, then main, right? So if I'll do this one, then it will push the changes to the origin. See here, uh, we have pushed the changes from the local repository to the remote repository. See, this is the path of the remote repository, right? And here local also we have main branch, and remote also we have main branch, correct? So if now we will refresh this one and see, the file will be here. Here you can see this readme.md file is now on server. Now everyone can see this file because this is on server, correct? So now we made the changes in the working copy, then we committed those changes to the repository, and from repository we have pushed those changes to the server repository. And from server, and the other users, the other developers, other users can also fetch those changes, pull those changes, and they can see those changes. So right. So the one workflow is done. Now what we will do, so we have one file here now. Recently we pushed that file. So we will make some changes here, and we will fetch those changes to the local one. So let me show you that one. So on server we have this file. So what we will do, we will edit this file. So I have added one more line here, updated at server, right? So I'll commit these changes. So this commit will directly on the remote, right, on server. So I'll commit this one here, updated readme.md. I'll not give anything, right? Then I'll commit the changes directly to the main, right? So now going to the uh, repo remote. So see here we see updated at server, but this changes is not there on the local. Let me show you that. So here we have local repository, and here we have this readme.md file, right? So let me open it. See here we have only one line, correct? I hope you are getting. Locally those changes are not here, but still those changes are on the remote, because we made those changes at remote only. So now how can we see these changes locally? So for that we have to pull the changes, right? So if we fetch the changes, fetching means only copying those changes to the locally, but does not mean it will be merged to the working directory, right? Working copy. So I'll fetch first. I'll do the fetch only, and here you will see in object. So we have here only five entries, right? So once I'll fetch, then see the magic here. Uh, Git fetch, right? That's all. Now see, eight objects, eight items got now. Some three more items got created when we fetch, right? So those are, we can see here, these three. So these three objects got created when we did the fetch, right? It means those changes are here now in local repository, but still we cannot see those changes here. Let me show you that again, right? So this is our file readme, right? Let me refresh it, and again here, open in notepad. So see, still those changes are not here, right? So what does it mean? Means fetch only copies the changes from the server to local, but it keeps those changes with the Git repository only, not with the. It does not merge those changes to the working copy, right? So now for merging, what we have to do? We have to pull, then pull, right? And from where? Uh, Origin, right? Main. So now this is fetch the changes, and then it is updating the local file. See here, fast forward and updating this one. Right. Let me open now again this file, and see now this change is here now. You can see. So I hope you got it. Like when we do fetch, then it copies those changes to the local repository, but does not merge those changes to the working copy. That's why we cannot see those changes, right? But when we do the pull, then what it does, first it fetch the changes, right, to the local repository, and then it merge. So there are two steps in pull request. Here I have marked one arrow only, but it is doing first fetch, and then it merged the local changes to those changes with the working copy. So I hope you got it. Now we are clear with the workflow of the Git, from creating the repository, cloning the repository, to the pushing the changes to the server and fetching the changes from the server to the local repository. Thank you for watching the complete video.